When people look back at the Second World War, it is, tempting to assume the defeat of Nazi Germany was inevitable. Yet in the early years, the Reich stood on the edge of achieving total dominance over Europe. Understanding just how close they came to that nightmare reality is crucial not only for history buffs, but for anyone who studies strategy, resilience, or the fragile balance that holds civilizations together. In the next few minutes, you'll see how rapid victories, bold gambles, and, honestly, some brutal miscalculations brought Europe to the brink, and how the course of history turned away from the abyss at key moments. The Blitzkrieg campaigns, well, they reshaped the continent in months. In 1939, Germany's invasion of Poland introduced the world to Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Within weeks, Poland was crushed, and by spring 1940, the Wehrmacht turned westward. France, considered one of the strongest armies in Europe, fell in just 6 weeks. The Germans bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line, cutting through the Ardennes forest in an unexpected move that left the Allies stunned. By June, German troops paraded through Paris. For US and British observers, this was, frankly, a wake-up call. If France, with its industry and long-prepared defences, could collapse so quickly, then no European power was safe. The rapid collapse shows how speed and surprise can overwhelm even a larger opponent. Survival-minded viewers can take a lesson here. Preparedness must include flexibility, not just fortifications, because no defence holds if your enemy fights differently than expected. With Western Europe subdued, Hitler turned to Britain. In 1940, the Battle of Britain became the first major air campaign in history. The Luftwaffe sought to crush the Royal Air Force and clear the way for a cross-channel invasion. For months, cities endured nightly bombings known as the Blitz, with Londoners sleeping in underground stations as bombs rained overhead. The fact that Britain endured was not guaranteed. The RAF, well, they came within weeks of running out of both pilots and planes. Had radar installations been destroyed, or if German bombers hadn't shifted to bombing cities instead of airfields, Britain may have actually lost the skies. If that had happened, Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion, might have succeeded, cutting off the last major resistance in Western Europe. For modern readers, the lesson is really stark. One small decision, even a tactical shift in targeting, can alter the fate of nations. In June 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, which was the largest land invasion in history, with nearly 4 million Axis troops pouring into the Soviet Union. Within weeks, entire Soviet armies were encircled. By December, German forces stood at the gates of Moscow. Many German generals believed victory was within reach. Stalin's empire appeared on the verge of collapse. What saved the Soviets was not just numbers, but, resilience. Factories were moved deep into the Urals, out of reach of bombers, and entire cities mobilized for war production. The brutal Russian winter also slowed the German advance. Had Moscow fallen in 1941, or had oil-rich regions like the Caucasus been secured, Germany could have starved the Soviet war machine. Instead, supply lines stretched too thin, and German troops faced both freezing temperatures and a Soviet counterattack. For preparedness enthusiasts, this is a reminder that endurance and resource reallocation often decide survival more than initial strength. Beyond the main fronts, Germany's campaigns in North Africa also carried the potential to alter the war. If Rommel's Afrika Korps had broken through Egypt and seized the Suez Canal, Axis powers could have cut Britain off from vital oil supplies and colonial routes. Furthermore, a link-up with Axis-aligned forces in the Middle East could have opened access to even more oil reserves. That didn't happen, largely because of stretched German resources and the stubborn defence by British and Commonwealth forces. But it shows how control of resources, not just territory, determines strategic outcomes. In survival terms, whether in war or crisis, securing energy and supply routes matters as much as winning battles. Before December 1941, the United States was supplying Britain and the Soviets through programs like Lend-Lease, but it was not fully engaged. Once Pearl Harbor was attacked and Germany declared war on America, the balance shifted decisively. The United States' vast industrial capacity began producing tanks, planes and ships at a pace Germany could never match. Had the United States stayed out, Britain may have eventually collapsed under constant pressure, and the Soviet Union may have been strangled by shortages. This, I think, illustrates another practical insight. Alliances and external support can really make or break resistance against a stronger force. Survival in hostile environments often depends not only on your own supplies, but also on forging partnerships. Looking back, Nazi Germany stood frighteningly close to dominating Europe. By mid-1941, Hitler controlled nearly the entire continent from the Atlantic coast to the outskirts of Moscow. Resistance remained only in Britain and the Soviet Union, and both were hanging by a thread at critical points. Had just a handful of decisions gone differently, the Luftwaffe pressing its attack on airfields, Moscow falling before winter, or the Suez Canal being seized, the map of Europe may have looked entirely different. But overreach, logistical strain and underestimating enemies ensured that Germany's victories could not be sustained. This reveals a timeless truth. Conquest without consolidation breeds collapse. It's a lesson not only for nations, but for individuals planning resilience. You simply cannot expand your reach without first securing the foundation you already hold. Nazi Germany came within striking distance of conquering Europe, and for a brief period between 1940 and 1941, it seemed possible the Reich might succeed. Yet the combination of stubborn resistance, environmental challenges, and the overwhelming weight of Allied industry turned the tide. For serious students of history, this near miss demonstrates how fragile the balance of freedom was, and how quickly it can be threatened again. For survival-minded viewers, it reinforces the importance of adaptability, endurance, resource control, and alliances in the face of overwhelming odds. If this deep dive gave you new insights into just how close Nazi Germany came to ruling Europe, make sure you subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with others who want to understand not just history, but the lessons it still carries for resilience and survival today.